Good afternoon and welcome to the Great Sober Sex Forum. My name is Nikas and I am an alcoholic.
Nikas.
Welcome to all those who are joining us via the internet. This is a recorded event, so if you are joining us online, we thank you for joining us. Are there any other addicts or alcoholics present? Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
You guys want to please join me in this serenity prayer? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves.
I'm John. I'm an alcoholic as well as a compulsive eater, and you could probably add a few other things to that too.
John.
Jose Luis, alcoholic addict, sexual compulsive.
Rick addict.
Hey, Rick.
My name is Jericho. I'm a crystal meth addict.
Jericho.
I'm James. I'm an alcoholic.
James.
Lee, addict.
Lee.
Mark, alcoholic.
Mark.
Johnny, alcoholic.
Johnny.
Danny, crystal meth addict.
Danny.
Matt, crystal meth addict, alcoholic, and just overall on the addict.
Matt. Welcome to everybody. So the purpose of this forum is to hold space to open a dialogue about sober sex. Sober sex is one of those things that isn't necessarily get talked about a lot in the meetings. There are some specific meetings that directly go after the issue of sex and sobriety. But in a meeting situation or a meeting setting, it's a person speaking, and there's usually not crosstalk, and there's usually not. But this is a forum. This is a dialogue. This is to create a space where we can all actually get into the nuts and the bolts of fears and what we come up against out there. Because it really seems as though that sex is the number one issue that takes people out. I mean, that's, what happened? Well, I had to get laid. Oh, okay. So sex really is, it's part of being a successful sober human is having a successful sober sex life, right? I mean, you can't be a successful sober man and not have a sex life. That's not success, right? That's just, but I'm sober. Yeah, I know, but are you having the full experience of being a sober guy? So today's specific topic is the journey. We've all got our unique journeys, but when we start to share our journeys, we realize that we're actually not all so different after all. We've all got some basic things in common. We all have fear, and then we all have a basic sense of joy or satisfaction when those fears are overcome. We walk through them. So if we could kind of just stick to really what does the journey look like for you? These guys are going to share their journey here. And what it looks like for them through the course of their sobriety. John, I know John's, he gave me a ride up to the Bass Lake last year, and we got to know each other on that couple-hour ride. And this guy's got a lot of wisdom. He's long-term sobriety and doesn't have a lot of crystal meth in his story. Actually, got zero. But as far as sober sex, he's had a lot of it. And he's had his own particular journey. And since we welcome everything, we welcome everyone's opinion, we welcome everyone's point of view here, I really thought it would be great to have John's wonderful knowledge. And Matthew, I've only recently got to know through my buddy Keone, and was introduced as, this guy's doing sober sex parties. And I said, okay, and then we happened to, I think, meet on Facebook or something, and that didn't come up, or I don't exactly remember how it all came down, but I'm always thrilled to hear that other people are out there in the community, kind of talking about sex in a very real way, because that's a lot of us when we go to meetings when we're within our community, we don't want to talk about sex, we don't want to be slut shamed, we don't want to be that guy. But reality is, it's something that we all do. And so, if we could just get to being honest about it. Couple items of housekeeping. Whatever you hear here, please keep it here. If you'd like to generally on the topic of what you came to, please, of course, do and talk about your own experience. But people's other experiences here, sharing somebody else's experience, please leave that for them to share. If you happen to get triggered, first of all, we'd like you to talk about that. We want to investigate everything. This is nothing stays off the table here. We want to actually really look into, okay, why? What is triggering? What is it about that's triggering? This is an investigation into sex, and if something in sex is triggering, let's investigate that. So first of all, talk about it. And secondly, this is a sober space. There are wonderful meetings here afterwards. It's a 6 o'clock sex and sobriety meeting. If you want to just kind of hang out and decompress afterwards and just kind of be around sober people, this would be a great place to do that. There's not a basket in the middle of the room. The suggested donation is $10. We'll find a basket at some point, and that's just to cover our rent here. The AT Center has been having a little bit of a hard time, so we try to really help them out as much as we can. The format for this meeting is used to be 2:30 to 5:30, but we cut half hour off the end of it just to see if that makes it better. So 2:30 to 5, we'll open up the forum. This is the opening part, and I'll talk till about 2:45. Then both the speakers will speak for 15 to 20 minutes, 25 sometimes. Which will take us till about 3:30-ish. And all this is just not set in stone. So 3:30-ish, we'll take a 15-minute break. We'll come back, and then we'll do question and answer. And so if you've got questions, particularly for the panel, please feel free to, they've been made well aware that there might be some difficult questions that come their way. Or if you'd just like to talk about anything that is your journey. What we found has been really useful is during that Q&A time is to just kind of do a check-in. So kind of where everybody gets to have a chat around the table. So we all get to kind of know each other, and it makes us feel a little bit more intimate with each other. This is an open forum on sex. This is a place designed specifically for you to deal with your fears, your phobias, your apprehensions, your concerns, your questions, whatever stands in the way of you having a vibrant, sober sex life. This is the place to actually work that shit out. When we talk about stuff too, it relieves the fear. So fear. Turn my phone off. Sorry about that. Please silence all cell phones. Fear. We were talking about this earlier. Matthew and I were talking about this earlier. Fear is just a collection of thoughts, right? So, but these collection of thoughts, as long as they're in my head, they hold weight. It takes it. So when I have this sort of sober sex fear, this fear of something, it's because it's like a number of thoughts that are going around in my head that are just playing off each other. And then my belief of those thoughts as being true, if I don't believe them, it's like, oh, this is nonsense. It wouldn't be a fear. It's just a collection of thoughts. But if I believe those thoughts as true, then that fear suddenly it affects how I will move forward, what I will do, what I won't do. It affects, these collection of thoughts suddenly have weight because they're believed. So the idea in a situation like this is just, if you find something that's fearful, just throw it out there, right? That's, with sponsees all the time, it's like, what are you scared? It's just like, just get all this stuff out, because once it's out, it's out. It's public knowledge. It gives everybody the opportunity to kind of help you through it, to sort of, hold your hand, as well as for everyone else to know that, oh shit, I thought that same thing. It makes us all feel as though we're not in this alone. Also, you never know who you'll be helping out by asking a particular question that you might find of interest. So this is the part of the thing where I do a little icebreaker story, which I generally tell some sexual adventure story. But what I thought I'd do this time is talk about my last sexual adventure that involved meth, which was fucking 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, first of all, let me preface by saying, I use this stuff called Trimix, Trimix is an injectable hard-on. It's a very localized experience. I'm on a heart medication, which is basically Cialis. I take a very measured dose of Cialis for a heart thing. And I said to my doctor, I said, I'm still having a hard time. He's like, oh, really? He said, well, when you take Cialis on a regular daily basis at that amount, he says, I can imagine it doesn't necessarily work when needed, when you want it to. So he says, we're going to give you this stuff called Trimix. And I go, I know what Trimix is. He says, yeah, it's localized. It's very, very just in that one area. There's no side effects. It doesn't blur your vision. It doesn't affect your sinuses. It doesn't affect your system. So I was like, oh, perfect. Okay, great. My bag, I'm embarrassed to say, kind of looks oftentimes like it should belong to the needle exchange. There's all sorts of half-filled syringes, and when I use the empties, I just toss them in this one little part of my bag. And I was doing a 12-step call for somebody, help them empty their drugs, help them clean up their needles, took their stuff, their needles, put them in my... I have no problem holding on to needles because I have a script for needles. So, I have no fear if I get caught by the police. Why do you have needles on you? Oh, I have a script because I use stuff called Trimix, and I'm a sober guy in AA. Thank you very much. It's like I just don't have the fear around that stuff. So for me, it was like if I could just take away this guy's fear by getting these syringes out of his life, by all means. And so when I talk about this, I want to make sure that I'm not diminishing. The whole thing started actually. One of those syringes had meth still in it. I don't have a good system, which I will now, of my little preloaded Trimix syringes, and this meth syringe just got all mixed together. And so when I needed some Trimix, I reached in my thing and gave myself. And if you all know what it feels like to miss a vein, imagine missing in your fucking dick. It burned so bad, and I knew instantly what had happened. I was like, fuck. Okay. This is actually happening. And all this fear is kind of, my body is kind of going through the whole physical fear thing. And I'm, there's two voices in my head. One's like, don't worry about this. You got this. It's all good. You're spiritually fit. You know what to do. Talk to God. Just, and I got this one. I was like, yeah, well, but it's already happened. You're there. You're about to get high, and it's. I'll decide what you do. And I've got these two sort of like warring theologies going on in my head, and then it hit. The meth hit, and I got to say that I ended up staying high for 3 more days after that. I went out and found drugs, and so what could have been very simple. Just, it was, I took a sip off the top of somebody's drink. I didn't know. I put it down. That was that. I just did it. It wasn't. It was the beginning of 3 days. And which for me, I'm really grateful it was only 3 days because I'm like a 3 months guy. It's like, for me, it's the beginning of the end. But I had to really face that wow, I thought I was spiritual. I thought I knew what I would do. I thought I would have the proper tools in that situation. I had all these thoughts, and what I've kind of had to come to realize was, yeah, but that's not what happened. That's not the truth. The truth is, you got loaded and you stayed loaded. No matter what you would have preferred, the truth is what happened. And so for me, this has been a real learning adventure into looking at like the truth. For me, luckily, it didn't affect too much. I didn't lose too much. But what I did lose was I thought, and in my head, I'm like, God, you run a sober sex thing. How are you going to face these? How are you going to actually come back from this? But the reality was that other voice was so large, and so it just didn't matter. And so here I am. one of the things that I had to, that was one of the things I had to do was wow, okay, you're gonna have to face people, and you thought you knew what the decision would be if you were in this position, and the reality is I didn't know what the outcome was. So that was the one. But the second was I had 3 days, not continuous, but three sexual situations over those 3 days that were meth-induced sexual situations, and my whole demeanor, my whole story is about replace that shit ASAP, right? So yes, you've got these meth induced memories, but just make new ones. So that was immediately what I set out to do. The moment I hearkened back to what my first sponsor said. He said, and I'd been up for 17 days, and he said, "So, are you horny yet?" And I said, "I'm kind of hungry and I need a nap." He said, "Okay, well, here's the deal." This guy who's from East India, so he talked a little funny. So here's the deal: you're gonna get horny real soon. He says, and you know what? The moment you get horny, I want you to go fuck your brains out sober. And I hadn't ever heard that before in the rooms. I had heard all sorts of fear-based stories about what to do. And so that was the first time I had actually been given permission to go through my brains. And he says, here's the deal. If you relapse, I want you to relapse over sex before you have 30 days. Because we can deal with that. He says, when you get a year or 6 months or not, and you relapse, he says, that's a damn shame. And, it really affects your head. But, if for some reason you can't get this thing together, we got to figure out why. He says, here's what I want you to do. First of all, I want you to pray before you have sex. I want you to ask God to keep you safe, to give you the strength to be able to leave any sexual situation that doesn't work for you. And I want you to pray that you and the guy that you're with have amazing orgasms. He says, can you do that? I said, yeah. He says, okay, so how do you look for sex? He says, do you do it the online thing? I said, yeah, I do. He says, okay, so you got to just erase all that shit. Just get rid of it completely. Wipe out those profiles if you can. If you can't, some of them I know you can't actually, because you pay for them. Just get rid of the screen name as much as you can. Change the screen name, and then change all the pictures. He says, but here's the deal. When you're rewriting your profile on the computer, he said, I want you to pray. I want you to ask God to rewrite the profile for you. He says, can you do that? And I looked at him like, yeah, I can do that. Knowing that very well I could. I didn't know what the hell would happen, but I knew that I could do that. And I think some of you know my first profile, once I actually did that, said, newly sober off of meth, don't know if I'm a top or a bottom, needing kind, compassionate people to hand walk me through this experience. And I had absolutely angels show up. I had all kinds of first guys just showing up and just, no expectations, just people just walked me through the experience. And I got to very quickly learn what it was that I liked, what I didn't like, and what I was into, and what I wasn't. But all that came by having the courage to do what my sponsor said, which was, the moment you get horny, I want you to go fuck your brains out sober. Can you do that? So yeah, I can do that. So for me, when I heard when this thing happened again. I was like, okay, are you horny? And I'm like, no, I need a few more days rest. Okay, well, the moment you get horny, you go fuck your brains out. And so that's exactly what I did. Was I went and I started replacing those meth-based memories with sober ones. Had some fun sex in the last week. But really, for me, it was very important to sort of like practice what I preached by actually going and replacing them, because these meth-based memories, I'm very well aware, for those people that are still relatively new, if you're reaching us through the internet, I'm very well aware what that feels like now, to have those experiences so real, so tactile, so close, but I'm also aware of what it means to go and just replace them, just go change them, just change them out. So if you place on top of each one of those some sober memories, they just begin to fade out. And that's just what I have found has happened. I'm not sure if that happens for everyone, but I can tell you that's been my experience. And as of this week, I feel very comfortable again. Oh, and I this was another thing. There was a day that I didn't have Trimix because I'm staying in a hotel. The place I'm moving into, the guy needed another week, so I was like, okay, so he's putting me up at a hotel. Unfortunately, I didn't have my access to my little things. So this guy, a little bottom boy, comes over, and I couldn't. It was first thing in the morning. I didn't have cock ring. I didn't have a Trimix. I didn't have nothing. And so it was like the whole experience was like, wow, and I can't get hard. So, but that's the reality. The reality is I can't. And so very quickly, by expressing to this kid, oh yeah, this is where I'm at. This is my situation, and just turning everything into the truth. I've really found that so much of this journey, and my journey, has been about avoiding the truth. And where I've really found that this journey of sobriety has arrived me at is just embracing the truth. The truth isn't my enemy, it's my best friend. I mean, it's everything, because it's the truth. It's the fact. The stuff in my head is the fiction. The stuff in my head is the make-believe. The truth, the actual, is the fact. So, really, this journey of sobriety for me has been a journey into becoming really, really, really close and familiar with this thing called the truth. So, yeah, that's my truth of what has happened to me in this last couple of weeks since the last time we all met. And I'm excited to hear from these boys. Do you want to start out?
I can if you'd like.
All right, so without any further ado, this is Matthew. If you guys will please help me.
Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm a addict and an alcoholic, sexually compulsive, the whole deal.
Matthew.
All right, so jump right in. The journey. So, I guess I'll start sort of at childhood, because everything we do as an adult is, trauma we carry from childhood. So I grew up in a very fundamentalist Christian household, which probably don't need to say anymore, but I will. They put the mental in fundamentalism. It was that far. And to my parents, who were both abused as children, not sexually, but in other ways. And to them, Christianity was sort of the box that they could put everything in and forget about it, in a way. They very demonstrably viewed the body as just a vessel to the afterlife. This was just, a disposable container to get you from point A to point B, because point B is what mattered. And so there was no... the body itself sort of was not celebrated. It was, this sort of dirty thing. It was something that one should fear because the body can take you away from God, kind of thing. So from a very, very, very early age, that's sort of how I viewed my own body. And then, being a young child in the 80s during the AIDS crisis, and my parents having, Anita Bryant on and talking about how, God is getting rid of the homosexuals and stuff. At a very young age, I knew that I was gay. I kind of knew that I'm different, and somehow that difference condemns me. So I turned inward. I sort of folded inward and shut down as much as I could. So that's essentially how I came into the world. And, I'm still overcoming some of that baggage now. I was told as a child into a young adult that I'm ugly, that I shouldn't try going to the gym because it's just not going to happen. Genetically, our family does not actually put on muscles. Well, no one's ever tried. And so basically, I felt like I was free floating in space and wasn't at all equipped to have a sex life as an adult. And having a sex life is crucial to being a complete human being. It's something that is fundamental to who we are. And so I'd been, sort of starving for anything sexual, for a very, very long time. And masturbation can only take you so far, So essentially, I lost my virginity while high. It started there. Some of my friends lived in Santa Cruz in this sort of drug den that they called the Pen, which various people lived there and they had various vices. And I remember I was I think probably with mushrooms and pot or something and alcohol, and I was like, I need to go upstairs and sit down because I was like just completely like dizzy out of it. I couldn't see. Next thing I remember was one of the lesbians in the house putting her hands down my pants, talking about how, sometimes she likes the dick. And I'm like, what is going on? And then another member, like another housemate, walked by the open door, and he was gay, and he was a guy. And I was like, come in here. And she got really mad, left, and then he took over. He was an Irish alcoholic, like the classic alcoholic. So we started having sex. And basically in the middle of it, I got up and said, you suck at this, and I left. I was like, this is not how it's supposed to be. I've seen the pictures, I've seen the videos, this is not how it's supposed to go. And I was like, this was the first time and you fucked it up, kind of thing. I was very mad. Because that's the kind of person that I was. But the point of that story is that sex and drugs have always been linked for me. Always. It was really difficult for me to have sex even with my boyfriend, who actually found me attractive. And I couldn't just trust in that. I started, drugs and sex, I had to be high or drunk in order to have sex because I needed to break down that body dysmorphia, that idea that I am ugly, that, which turns out it's not true. Turns out I'm not ugly. Turns out my dick isn't small, even though I thought it was. Turns out some people like pale, gingery skin. In fact, well, I'll get to that in a sec. Yeah. So, it started off for me being, sex on ecstasy and coke, and then finally I found crystal meth, and I was like, oh, okay, this is how I like to have sex. Because vanilla has never been part of my story. I like it dirty, I like it rough, I like it textured and a little bit scary. Like, my favorite porn is porn that you're the minute after you come, you're horrified by what you're watching. It's that's the kind of porn that I love. And so, I couldn't accept, first of all, I just couldn't accept sex. I couldn't accept gay sex. Then I couldn't accept raunchy gay sex. And so crystal meth was absolutely necessary for me to, enjoy barebacking, for me to, spontaneous bottoming was a snap when I was on meth because, I hadn't been eating for 5 days, so I was just, oh yeah, I'm clean, jump right in. And I wasn't in my head, I wasn't all, literally a tight ass. I wasn't, I was like, I can't relax kind of thing. People were like, just breathe. I'm like, I am breathing. Lamaze isn't going to help me bottom. And, so it was great. It was how I really liked to have sex, and I was convinced I couldn't have sex without it. I couldn't actually do this. And in a way I didn't want to, because I liked not giving a shit. I liked not caring. I liked not being afraid. I liked not hating myself. I liked all those things that I felt when I was on meth. It was like all the darkness inside, turned to stained glass the minute I took drugs. And it was this colorful, wonderful world. And as it progressed, I slowly lost everything that I cared about, including my dick, basically. It's like, couldn't get hard no matter how much Viagra I took. So I was like, fine, I'll just, be a bottom then. I won't be verse anymore. And that was something acceptable to me. So, I guess getting sober. I always found my drugs off of Scruff. I never memorized the dealer's number, never put it in my phone, because I was convinced that that's how someone would catch me, and that's how I'd be arrested. And so, I would be on Scruff, and I would, ask somebody if they party, and they'd be like, no, I'm sober, and so I'd just block them. Block, whatever. Buzzkill. You're lame. And so after a 10-day run of everything, but just a ton of meth, and after you've been fucking for 10 days, everything is so sore. It was like, but I still had to jack off, and it felt like my skin was going to just be ripped off of my dick like it was a well-cooked chicken or something like that. But I still had to do it. And so the only thing I knew what to do was take a couple of sleeping pills. And then while they kicked in, get back on Scruff. Because what else do I know how to do? That's all I know how to do. And then I realized that by blocking every sober person, it saved them all to a folder. And so in that folder was a whole bunch of sober people. So Scruff got me high, and then Scruff got me sober. Because I went into that folder, and I looked, and some people were on, and I just texted or messaged them, and it was like, hey, it's me from a while ago. Can I ask you some questions? Long story short, he was like, let me just come by and pick you up. I was like, let me just took some sleeping pills. He's like, just tell me your address, it'll be fine. He was persistent. And he took me to my first meeting. So basically, I came into the rooms exhausted, just completely spent. I don't know if I was desperate, but I was just too tired to fight. And so I started my sober journey then, and I put sex on hold for a very long time under sponsor direction. He was one of the people that's like, don't have sex within the first year, and I'm like, can we talk about 3 months first? Like, I'll do the celibacy in installments. How about that? And around 4 months, I was messaged by somebody in the program that I had been attracted to, but I was too afraid to go up and talk to them because I couldn't ever talk to anybody that I found attractive, because even though I'd gotten rid of the meth, I was left with all that residual self-hatred and fear. So, it was like, oh my God, I'm sorry, but I think you're so attractive, and I'm, in love with you, kind of thing. I was like, oh, great. And my sponsor was like, don't even. And I'm like, well, I'll be fine. I have 4 months of sobriety. I've got this. And 13th stepping aside, it was actually handy because it was the first time that I had sober sex. The first time in my life. At that point, it was almost 19 years. Actually, it was the entire time in my life from childhood. So it was 36 years. So it was revelatory at the very least. And I'm someone who's very logical and scientific, and if something works a little bit, it can be cultivated into something more. And so, I would sort of dip my toes in the water, or my dick in the water, and have sex with sober people. And like they knew, I wasn't sober for very long, and it was very difficult for me. And I talked to my sponsor, and I was like, can I get a prescription for Viagra? What do you think about, because I can't, whether it's that I'm still reeling from the side effects of, years of meth, or if it's just I'm so wrapped up in self-consciousness and fear that I can't get hard, which then, I would get back in my head about that because it's like, oh, I'm not getting hard. I can't. They're not going to think that I'm attracted to them, but I really am, and I can't. And it's this spiral of self-obsession. But he was like, yes, it's for if it's for an actual issue, yes. And so, Viagra helped actually, whether it was a placebo or whether it was actually just getting hard, I was able to stay hard and then sort of be in the sex. So as I sort of progressed, see, where do I go with that? Basically, once I started actually having sex, there was, I started divesting myself of these fears and these things that I always told myself was bad and that I shouldn't like and that I shouldn't want to do. And, I shouldn't want to bareback. I shouldn't like group sex. I shouldn't like all these things that I love. And slowly I was like, well, that's who I am. It says to thine own self be true. So is that who I am? And is that okay? And so there are these, like Team Pig puts on parties, there's Den LA, there's various, sex parties in Los Angeles that I was interested in going to because I love group sex because I have sort of, I guess, sexual ADD. If I'm tired of this one thing, I can turn over and fuck this person, or I can bottom, I can top, I can flip, I can do all this. I have options. I can take a breather and step away for a second, and I know that everyone is still going to be taken care of. I love it. But I was really reluctant to go because I still was unsure about that. I couldn't go to sex clubs yet because, there was meth there, and I knew there would be meth there. Because again, I would go to Flex or something, and I would go from room to room and be like, "Oh, are you partying?" They'd be like, "No," and I'd go to the next room until someone said yes, which didn't take very long. But I was talking to somebody they had, I think, 8 or 9 years of sobriety, but they were new to Los Angeles. And somehow I was talking to them, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to this thing," and I'm like, "Oh, mind if I tag along?" And he was like, "Sure." So I went to a sex party for the first time, and I wouldn't entirely say that it was successful, but it proved to me that I could actually face sex sober. I could do this. And so I actually went through a very sort of scientific process. I'm very cerebral. I'm very scientific. When in my 20s, I decided to fuck my way through the Zodiac because it was like, I'm doing this for research kind of thing. I'm going to write a book. It was really just an excuse to be a whore, but I convinced myself that it was this, I was star fucking, literally. And so I was like, well, I'm going to sort of make a list of all the things that I liked to do high. And I'm going to tackle one at a time, and I'm going to see which one was me and which one was the drug. Because I had thought that they were all the drug that liked it. So it would be things like, bareback. Oh, no, it turns out I like that. Yeah, sure. Water sports. Somebody would be like, they had method like, I want to pee on you. I'm like, sure, that's super cool. Okay, yeah, just give me a hit first and we're all good to go. Let me turn around because you have skin lesions. I don't know. Or, what are some other ones? Like, when I was high, I loved to get fucked and choked at the same time. Because it was, there's no because, it simply was. Not so much about that. I'm not against it a little bit, but not to the, the veins popping and a red face kind of, almost to the point of passing out. So I went through this list of all the different things that I liked. And it turns out 80% of them I actually like. So that was basically another revelation to me. But these group parties, I was still apprehensive about them because people show up tweaking. You can't control that. And I wanted to create a safe environment for myself to fuck the way that I want to fuck. To just with abandon. Because I missed, I'm not going to lie, I miss meth to a degree. Like I miss the idea of it. I don't miss the actual drug. I don't miss the chaos of it. I don't miss, not being able to say no the second time. I miss the wild abandon of it. I miss not caring. I miss not being afraid. I miss, not thinking that I'm too pale. I miss, I miss the fact that it took away all the things that I'm still working to get over. So, I was like, well, I need to find people that I know don't do meth. So, to backtrack a little bit, I'm bipolar, and that had gone undiagnosed for a very long time. And it turns out that now I'm severely medicated, but I'm very medicated for bipolar disorder, but it comes in waves. Like there's still an up and down. It's just compressed a little bit into an acceptable zone. So my sex drive varies drastically between that. Or actually, no, that's a lie. My sex drive does not, but my will to do anything about it varies. Because when I'm in a downward state, I'll be like, I'm horny, I want to fuck, but I don't have to call people, I don't want to have to take the time to douche, I don't want to have to take the time to clean up my apartment, I can't be bothered with that, so I would just jack off. So, but when I'm feeling great about myself, I've got energy, I'm, confident, I'm not afraid that someone's going to constantly reject me. So I have a lot of sex at that point, and then, it'll be like 3 months of just thrusting my penis into the void, seeing what I hit, and then there's 3 months of just masturbating compulsively. So I started to, on BBRT, which I love, turns out me being a ginger is a fetish. Little did I know. Because I'd always dye my hair or whatever, because I didn't like being called a ginger, because, it's an insult in England. My family's British by descent. So basically, I was getting a lot of attention, and it was validating to a degree, but I started essentially interviewing people for, putting together my own list of safe people to have sex with. Whether they were in the rooms or not, some of them were, some of them weren't. But there's plenty of people out there that are tired of the tweakers on Scruff or on DVRT or on Grindr. They're tired of someone saying, no, I don't party, and then them showing up and being, high as a kite, or bringing a pipe going, oh, just kidding, I thought you'd be mad. There's a lot of people that are tired of that. And so, I would actually, first of all, anybody that said, drugs, yes, I blocked. So it was the exact opposite from my using days. I would block people that were, drug users. And I'm aware that they're all in a folder. So I just have to keep that at bay. But, I would actually talk to them as if I partied. Even though on my profile, I'm very upfront about this. I do not drink, I do not smoke, I do not do any drugs. No, it's not okay if you do. Drugs of any kind. are a deal breaker. But nobody reads a profile. So I would be like, hey, do you party? Question mark, with the capital T, the whole deal. And if somebody's like, well, sometimes, I'd be like, no, I can't with you. But sometimes people would be like, never, do you? I'm like, actually, no, I don't. And then they would sort of go into the group. So I started hosting at my place groups, sober or drug and alcohol free group sex at my place, which it grew and it grew and it grew, and I would let people know, oh hey, I've got this sort of monthly to every 2 months group that comes into my apartment, and we fuck, and it's this people, and there's whatever, and then people would want to be added to it, and I would of course vet them. And people were actually very good. They'd be like, I actually partied for the first time last month, so I have to be kicked out. I'm like, yeah, you do. Which was really tough because, there's some really hot guys that I like in the group that I had to say, no, you're out of the group. But, I was like, there's plenty of beef in the sea. It's fine. There's other hot guys. And so that's essentially where I made the most progress, was understanding, no, I can have sex sober. I can have crazy sex sober. I can get a hard-on again. I have distance to my cum shot. That came back. That was nice. As long as I can basically make sure I'm not in my head, and that means, cleaning out for like 30 minutes to an hour beforehand. Sometimes, using a butt plug or a dildo to kind of warm myself up so I'm not like, they don't just sort of jump in. Like some people think my ass is a PlayStation, and I'm just like, no, dude, you gotta just like be real slow with this. And I can top again, which is fun. But where I am now, that list actually has grown so large that I can't host them all in my apartment. And I just can't be bothered to like rent a hotel room. I'm not going to pay, X amount of money to rent a hotel room to facilitate this, and I can't guarantee that someone's going to reimburse, so don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. Where I am now in my sex life is something has shifted, and I don't know if it's because I'm in a bipolar depression a little bit, or if random sex has gotten tiresome for me, but I want something more. And so, I haven't been hosting parties even with a small group. I haven't really been going out and getting laid. I've been sort of just exploring this, but actually, when I go home from here, there's a guy that is going to come over. There's a really hot hookup. So that's nice. But I'm sort of figuring it out again because something has changed. I know that I can have crazy fun sober sex. I'm no longer ashamed of liking the things that I like. I'm no longer ashamed of, being a pig. I love it. And it's something that I actually wear as, not a badge of pride, but it's something that is, front and center. Because if I'm not honest about that as well, and somebody comes over and they're like, oh, I only like it on the bed in the missionary position. I'm like, oh God. So I know it's not going to work. So I just lost my train of thought on that one. So where am I now? I don't know if it's because I'm in a depression or if I want something more, but I'm just letting it be. Lately, there's been a lot of euphoric recall with drugs. It's entered my mind again. I want to not care. I want to just, in wild abandon, not give a shit. It could be the fact that, you know, I've been abstaining for like a couple of months. That could be a trigger for me, because I know abstinence is a trigger for me. You know, if I'm not having sex, then I know a shortcut to having lots of sex, and that's bad for me. So I have to be conscious about avoiding that, being in the middle of being a monk or being a whore. So with and you know, even with stumbling across or even occasionally searching out P&P videos where the idea of it is attractive, but even empirically looking at the video, like, this is ridiculous. There's literally nothing going on. You know, it's somebody's webcam, and they're buzzing around, like checking the drapes, moving the furniture, repositioning things, changing the corn. Meanwhile, this like severely optimistic bottom is just draped over an ottoman, hoping someone's going to stop. And you're just like, wait, yeah, that's what it was like. You know, it wasn't productive. You know, and so I have to keep reminding myself empirically, sex while high was not sex. Sex while high was searching for my people on Scruff, trying to find the next place to crash, trying to get that other person hard so that he can fuck you, trying to, find more people. Because when I was high, it was like, you couldn't stick enough stuff in my ass. It was like, oh, is the Pellegrino bottle still there? Bring it. Get the coffee table. Put it in there. You know? And so one person wasn't enough. All the people on Scruff weren't enough. So it wasn't actually having sex. So basically, I'm at a place of acceptance with myself, with being a sexual person, and a sexual person that I choose to be. Thank God for PrEP, I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. I think the fact that I kept going into the clinic when I was using, I would go on a run and I'd be like, oh my God, well, I'm sure I took more loads than a dishwasher. What happened? So, and I would go in and I'd start PEP, which is post-exposure prophylaxis. And every time I'd go in, they're like, oh, Matt. And when the STD clinic knows you by name, that's a red flag. They're like, Matt, you're back. Is it time for the next shot? I was like, no. And they would have this sort of just dejected look on their face. They would sigh, and then they would open up the binder again and start the process all over again. And then after I got sober, they were like, you're a good candidate for the PrEP study. I'm like, but I don't use anymore. I'm like, no, you're still a good candidate for it. So I went on the PrEP study, and I've been on PrEP ever since, and that has also allowed me to bear back, take loads. I love cum, that whole thing. It's allowed me to actually not be as concerned about it, because I would be terrified of becoming positive, not because it's a bad thing, not because it's a death sentence, not because of any stigma. I really don't care. Like, I have sex with positive people, I really don't care. But it's because my mom would win. It's because she would be able to say, see, every gay person does get AIDS. And it's God's will for you. It's because she would win, and I still can't have that. I'm negative through spite, essentially. Yeah. So I don't know. That's essentially where I'm at. We've landed to current. After this, I will be fucking my brains out. Yay for that. With somebody that I feel is totally out of my league. He thinks I'm out of his league. So I can't think of a better situation. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you for listening to that.
Mr. John?
Well, it is 3:30. I've been here for an hour drinking tea, and I just wondered if we could take a 5 minutes?
Absolutely.
Key break.
Did I go over time? Thanks, man. That's not. I really appreciate that.
I will never forget the phrase eternally optimistic